You're listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by machinists. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protein Machining, and this week I have the All Florida Man episode. I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. Go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, me first? Okay. So, hi, I'm Nick Polanosky. I run a small prototype shop in Maitland, Florida, which is on the east side of Orlando. If you want my entire life story and shop history, please reference Within Tolerance episode 124 and 126 because I talk a lot. Over to you, Juan.
All right, yeah, I'm Juan March. I own a Jacksonville Precision in Jacksonville, Florida. My history was on episode 96, kind of the same boat as Nick. We run a small prototype job shop. We got 3 people currently and 3 machines, so about the same size as Nick.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I may have skipped it. My business name is P3D Creations. If I said that already, please edit that out.
I will double check for sure. Well, you both have had tons of growth, new machines, people, all that stuff. Which one of you wants to go first and kind of update the listeners on what you got going on?
All right, I'm being pointed at. So
last you were on, you were talking about Datron. You had not had a Datron yet. We promised that you'd be back on to kind of talk about how cool it is or not cool. So, what's been going on?
Sure. Yeah, and please interrupt me, and let's ping pong this back and forth so I don't do a evil villain monologue for the entire episode. But all right, Datron. In short, it is everything I was hoping it would be and more. However, it is important to understand that as cool as the vacuum work holding is, it's still not magic. And it is still a relatively small light duty machine, and it has its limits. So, let's see. So I ordered the machine in late December. I received it in, I think, late March, early April. They got it installed. We did training, and the very first thing I did was blow up the entire spindle. That was a hard lesson about internal material stresses. As a reminder to everybody, normally when you buy nice thick bar stock, it'll come as like 6061-T651 or 6511. Those last few digits are really important. If you just get T6, it's not stress relieved. And if you go and machine a bunch off of one side, it will try to turn into a taco on you. Sometimes if you have vacuum and adhesive holding it down, it will try to turn into a taco violently and all at once on the very end of your facing pass when you thought everything was going well. At that point, your 3mm sheet, which you have just faced to 1mm, will suddenly pop up into your nice 20mm monoblock face mill, spin it in the taper, weld itself to the spindle, and become unremovable. You will then have to call the Datron service tech who's back at his hotel and thought he was flying home a day early and say, "Hi, I broke the machine. The tool won't come out, and I don't know what happened." He will then come out, look at it just as confused as you are, say, "Man, I've never seen that before."
Oh, that's a good one when you break it so bad that they don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, he was confused. Service was confused. Apparently, I'm the only one to have ever done this. Service's only advice was basically tap it with a hammer, I guess, see if it comes out, which in a high-speed precision spindle, we all know is terrible. So we got the tool out. I grabbed a precision flat stone, stoned the external taper. I bought a ruby stone at Stefan Gutzventer's recommendation, stoned the internal taper. I got it to tool change. I got 115 hours out of it. And then that was it. That the spindle, I don't want to say it catastrophically failed. I stopped it when it started smelling and making bad noises. But the spindles are warranted for 2,000 hours, and most people report like 8,000 to 10,000 on them. And I killed it in 1/100th of that time.
Yeah, that's impressive, man.
Yeah, not cheap. Let me tell you, a new spindle costs about 15% of the entire machine cost.
Oof.
And a used spindle is about, or not a refurbished spindle is about half of that, but it's still like, that is far and away the most expensive mistake I have ever made in one shot, or probably even cumulatively I've broken a lot of end mills. I've ruined tool holders. I've ruined expensive stock. But that was a new one.
Yeah.
But
you also, like, if I remember right, it's such a rare incidence that like there weren't that many in stock in the US. Like you were worried about like actually getting back up and running.
Yeah. So yeah, this gets better. There is more drama to add. So we got the. I called them and we. This wasn't a warranty thing. This was all on me. It is what it is. The machine, luckily, at least in the 100 and something hours I got out of the original spindle, at least paid for the replacement spindle. So we were reset to 0, but we weren't in the hole. So I called them when I saw the signs of failure impending and said, hey, I need a new spindle. Can you overnight it? And they're like, yep, we can overnight it, but we don't have a tech available for 3 months, which was absolutely not going to work for me. I think I had parts to make for Juan by like the next Wednesday, among other customers.
I was going to say, for everybody who doesn't know, the second Nick got a Datron, we were all like, cool, now we know where to send all of our plate work.
Yep.
It's probably 50% dominated by other Instamachinists sending me work. And if anyone has plate work and or other difficult to hold parts, I will happily take it. Please send me an email. The machine
I referred
is running.
somebody to you yesterday. They were like, somebody local called me and was like, hey, I've got these big 17 by 17 plastic plates. You want to do them? And I was like, A, won't fit in my machine. B, definitely don't want to do them. Here's Nick's information.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's definitely a unique machine. And yeah, don't buy a Datron, send me the work, at least until I'm too busy. Then someone else buy one and share. But yeah, so they sent us a spindle, but they didn't have a tech available. Luckily, they said that the spindle replacement was pretty straightforward. So they were willing to talk me through it. And yeah, it was not that difficult at all. Last thing they had to do was remote into my machine, reset the tool changer. It's like a proximity sensor that indicates the drawbar position. So they had to just set the parameters for that. And they set it, and it kept on giving tool clamp errors. The tool was clamped, but it was giving errors. It wouldn't let me do anything. So a day of troubleshooting later, I finally say, hey, why don't I put the old spindle back in and see if we're getting the same problem? Old spindle doesn't spin, but it clamps and unclamps. New spindle spins, but doesn't report to the machine that it's clamped and unclamped. Turns out I got a defective spindle. So on to spindle number 3, they overnighted another one to me. This was the last one in the US. It had to come from the West Coast. It was already penciled in for another customer who I actually know. But they couldn't get a tech out anytime soon. So they sent me their spindle. I returned mine for refurbishment. They got new ones ordered in from Germany for this other customer and to replenish the East Coast office. And finally, third time's the charm. That's the spindle that's in my machine now, and it's been running great.
Awesome. Well, we've talked, ad nauseum about how terrible it can be, but let's talk about all the cool stuff that you've been able to do now.
Let me be clear. That wasn't terrible. The service experience overall was awesome. They took care of me. They made things right. We worked out a deal where it didn't hurt too bad, and I got back up and running. So I have nothing but good things to say about the service experience. That was just an unfortunate mistake, which is exactly in my style, where I always create the problems that nobody has ever seen before. That's just what I do, apparently.
So Garrett Wade asked, is it as awesome as you were expecting, and how was it trying to transition from Cat 40 to a small taper like that?
So it was absolutely as awesome as I was expecting. I've been able to take on parts that were previously awkward or impossible to do. The high flow vacuum plus the high speed spindle plus no flood coolant, the large tool changer, the very low run out holders, like 2 microns or less. Everything is awesome. The control is just fantastic. Using the camera to do the probing that's something I want on every machine. If I have a part that I need to flip and I don't have any external features to probe, but I've got a couple of through holes, I just draw 2 circles. One circle sets the WCS origin, the other circle sets the rotation. If I've got a square block to probe, I draw a rectangle. If I have a round part and it doesn't need to be clocked in any particular way, you just draw a circle. If you need the corner of something, you draw an L. Like, it's that easy. The
That's
tool
so cool.
management is second to none. It has its own entire internal tool database, so I don't have to even assign tool numbers in Fusion. I don't touch it. You just tell Fusion what your tool part number is, and you tell the machine what tool number you're putting in. It tells you where to put it in the magazine, and then when you call it in Fusion, it doesn't matter if it's in position 11 or 19 or 1. The machine figures that out. And if it breaks, it tells you exactly what you're taking out and what to put back in as a replacement. And just, it does so much really nice quality of life stuff. There are some things the control is definitely lacking that I kind of miss from other machines, like simple diameter wear offsets on the tools.
Really?
Yeah, but you can also handles it a different way. It uses not G code, it uses what they call simple, which is their own scripting language. And simple, it has a function called path offset, which you can apply to every tool path, and it just offsets everything by a set value. So you can do wear offsets, but it's not on a tool by tool basis, adjustable from the tool table. It's actually at a toolpath level. And what I've done is in my Fusion post processor, I've noticed that the machine interpolates holes about 1 thou undersized when I'm doing it quickly, like I like to do. So I just hard coded my Fusion wear offset to update the path offset by about 1/1000th of an inch, and then things come out on size first time every time.
That's awesome.
I could also make that fancier and adjust it, or I can go into the code and hand edit it to be whatever it needs to be. But no, like overall, the machine is great. The vacuum work holding is awesome.
Tribos, you like?
Tribos, I like it. Other than the price at $420 per tool holder, it hurts a little bit, but you can't argue with the performance. Right. And the ease of changing out tools. Like I love the system. It's so much better than like ER collets and less moving pieces, very fast to change stuff out. Very easy to clean, but yeah, expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah. Having just gotten PG, I know the feeling. You start looking, you're like, I want like a few more holders. You're like, oh, there's a couple grand. Cool.
It's a very similar idea. Yeah. But similar performance, similar type of like separate clamping equipment.
Right.
It's just, yours is a hydraulic thing and mine is squeezing a bore out of round so I can fit a tool into it and then letting it relax again.
Yeah, it's the most bizarre thing. I mean, it makes total sense when you see it, but you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a flexure as a tool holder.
Yeah.
Which is actually an awesome idea. So Garrett also asked about the transition. So here's the thing. I'm in a unique position. This is not a transition for me. It's just another tool in the toolbox. If I would never sell my conventional machines and go to just a Datron. It's only good at a relatively limited subset of parts. You can do almost anything with it. But whenever jobs come in, I am deliberately choosing what machines they go on, and sometimes choosing what machines are used for which operations. So I'll jump things from the UMC for first op to a Datron for second op, especially just for like decking the carrier off the back of something. Just sucking it down instead of having to hold it in jaws is nice. Especially if you have like funky shapes where you normally need to make soft jaws. If it's like a big part that would flex and vibrate in a vise, then that goes in the Datron. If it's steel or titanium or anything ferrous or hard or anything like that, I just put it in the other machines. I haven't quite figured out machining the tougher materials in the Datron yet. Tried it twice. Ruined perfectly good end mills quickly. There's I hear there's a trick to it, but without flood coolant, you've got to be really careful.
Right.
Might have good luck with like high feed mills or something like that in the Datron.
Those were the tools that I ruined very quickly.
I see. Okay.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Stefan runs a Datron at his day job and recommended some Hoffman 3-flute end mills. I have some of those on standby. I just need to do some experimentation on not a customer job.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to find time for that experimentation stuff.
Yeah, usually we're doing it live, which I don't love. But that's the life of a job shop.
Kind of have to. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all stressed right now trying to get ready for IMTS and push all of the work through the shop.
Yep, so that we can take about a week off.
Either that or I'm quoting like 60 days right now just for like cushion. even though realistically, like, we'll be faster than that, but I'm not going to overpromise and like tell my customers your parts are late because I'm on vacation.
Right.
Man, I don't think I've quoted 60 days for anything ever.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of that now.
Yeah, I sent a quote last week that was like, it's 3 weeks, but none of these apply till September 19th. So you can order it now, but it's after that it will be three weeks.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be transparent with people and tell them that, you know, we're going to be closed for the week of the 11th or whatever it is. And yeah, I don't know. We've actually gotten some good customers lately who don't want stuff in 3 days, which has been really nice.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, it's a new thing for us. That's for sure.
Yeah, I have one customer who ordered these. They're 16-inch diameter by 5.5-inch thick rings with a 1/4-inch wall thickness. They're
no thanks.
Space parts. I think they're going to end up on like small sats or something. But those guys, I normally quote them about 2 weeks for all their other parts, and these ones I'm like, nope, 40 days. Sorry, it's just A, I've got a lot coming up. B, that is a gigantic part that may take some experimentation. And even the material took 2 weeks to get in since I couldn't just go down to my local Auro Metals outlet and pick it up locally. So that's kind of a new one for me, getting into some like larger, higher dollar, more complex orders, and trying really hard to set expectations up front. I intend to finish them early, but it's a lot easier to say, hey, these might take a while than to say, hey, we're late.
Right. Yeah. Well, Juan, why don't you talk about your new machinery since your last appearance on the show?
Yeah, I think last time I was on, I think we had maybe just gotten our second VF2 SS, or maybe we were about to get it or something like that. But yeah, we got that second VF2 SS, and it's a VF2. That's really all there is to say about that, you know? It's a pretty standard machine. It makes parts. It's pretty much Frankie's machine, one of my employees. He pretty much runs it exclusively. And we also tend to kind of stick like longer run jobs on there, which aren't super common for us. Most of our stuff is under like 10 lot size, but if we get 100 or something, usually we'll stick it on that machine. And Frankie will run that stuff. But other than that, I mean, we got the DMU50, of course. That's kind of the big purchase. And I mean, people probably know it's a 5-axis machine. It's kind of, I think it was kind of DMG's flagship machine for a while. It's kind of their entry level to 5-axis. And yeah, it's a great machine. I don't know. It's super accurate. Like, I mean, Nick was talking about the Datron boring like a thou undersized, and the VF2s do that as well. But it seems like maybe it's the HSK 63 taper. The Datron just cuts how you tell it to cut. It's a lot more rigid. It's a lot more accurate.
You mean the DMG?
Yeah. Or sorry, the DMU. Yeah.
Well, let's go into that decision. Why DMU? Why DMG? You know, what made you choose that 5-axis versus any of the other entry-level 5-axis out there?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I looked at Haas, but I was just hearing like so much negative stuff about the UMC 500 and 750.
Can't confirm.
Yeah, I mean, Nick's got one. I went to Nick's shop with one of my other employees, Jeff, to hang out for a day, and I think, you know, we were checking out the UMC and whatnot at that point. And to other people, like there's some guys on Instagram I was talking to, and they were just like, you know, like you can make parts on it, but you just have to like, there's just extra steps. You got to jump through hoops, and you know, the blending is not always how you want it to be, and it's just like, you know, if I'm gonna already spend like what's a UMC, like $200-something thousand on a machine.
I got mine for about 150-ish.
Okay, that's pretty good, but I don't know. I figured like, if I'm gonna spend a bunch of money and I'm gonna pay for it over 5 years or whatever it is, like I'll just spend a little more money, and either way the payment is doable. So like I'll just get the machine that doesn't really give me headaches. That's really kind of my my philosophy on that. And as far as like other brands like Hermle and stuff, I think I was just more familiar with the DMG product line. I had seen more DMGs in person, and at the time that I made that purchase, I wasn't really familiar with like Doosan or Hermle or any of the other kind of common
Okay.
5-axis brands.
I was going to ask if you considered Doosan DVF 5000 at all.
Not really. I didn't really consider the Doosan brand for whatever reason. I guess they haven't marketed to me enough or something. But there's another shop. I forget what they're called. They're on Instagram, but they have all kinds of problems with their DVF also. I mean, maybe it's just them. That kind of stuff always happens. But
well, I know
I don't know.
Renscott, they sold their DVF to buy a bunch of microns.
Yeah, I mean, you hear complaints about DMG Mori's service, but I don't really hear complaints about the performance of the machines. So I don't know. I feel like we made the right choice. I really enjoy using it. The control is super user friendly. We got the Siemens control on it. HSK is nice. It's just a good machine all around. It's just I don't get frustrated when I'm punching buttons on it and making parts on it.
And that's Siemens with Celos over the top?
Yes.
Any other options that you spec'd out specifically, or because
No,
you got like
we
one of the
actually-
last third gens, right?
No, this is second gen.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of the last second gens, and we actually bought an in stock machine. I think we had it on our floor like 2 weeks after sending the PO, which was nice. So I mean, that being said, I didn't spec anything on it. It came with a Heidenhain probing spindle and tool setting. It's got a 30 tool changer. Excuse me. It's got a 30 tool changer, which is the same as our VFs. 60 tools would be nice, but 30 is fine. We can do anything that we need to do with 30. I mean, I dream of the day when we have like 150 tool changer that we can have like an entire drill index in and not think about anything, like not load tools ever. That'll be nice. But I mean, for now, it's our entry to 5-axis. Yeah, and 30 tools is fine, especially when you get into HSK and tool holders are suddenly twice the price that they used to be back when you were in Cat 40 land.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we're all kind of experiencing what the higher end of tool holding can be like now.
Yeah. So we got some power grip as well. I think we've got like 2 power grip holders right now and like 4 collets. And yeah, it's expensive. It's like $700 for like a holder and a collet,
Right. Yeah,
It's
I
ridiculous.
told Brad the other day, was setting something up in titanium, I think, with one of the power grip holders. I was like, yeah, just, don't be stupid.
Yep.
Don't break that end mill off on that
Yep.
collet. He was like, why? I was like, because it's like $130 collet. He was like,
Yep.
oh, okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of something that, I mean, since we only have 2 power grip holders, I think they're like 150 millimeter gauge length or something like that, PG-15. But like we try to use them for things that aren't sketchy.
Right.
Just because like I really don't want to run that holder into a vise or destroy a collet or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing with power grip is that if you destroy a tool, like it's most likely just the collet and not the holder.
Yeah,
but it's still not cheap.
That's what they allege, but I feel like people allege the same thing about hydraulic holders, and I have definitely destroyed some hydraulic collets in my day. So
Yeah.
I don't know. For now, we'll just try not to break anything in the PG holders.
I think that's a good plan all around. Thomas Hosford asked, what's particularly the real world work envelope of the DMU50? He's trying to replace a Bridgeport 400 5-axis, and he's looking for a larger part, ability to do larger parts.
Yeah. So I don't know what that Bridgeport machine's capacity is, but the DMU is a little weird because it's like the table is on like the right and the tool changer's on the left. So the tool changing actually happens like all the way to the left of the table. So that being said, like you've got a little more working area on the left side of the table. But if your work holding is centered on, the axis of rotation of the table, which it always is pretty much, like anything 16-inch diameter and over starts getting to be like kind of a pain. Like you can kind of work it, but you start having to do funky stuff like turning the table 180 degrees and machining on the left side, and then like turning it 180 degrees and machining on the left side, if you've got a big part. But yeah, I mean, the work envelope in 5-axis is weird too, because like we had like a 30-inch long part the other day that needed some end work, and we were able to set it up in the DMU and do all the end work on that really long part. But we couldn't have machined like the X dimension of that 30-inch long part in the DMU. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, you've got more Z than you've got X and Y, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So did you get any simulation, or are you just running it straight out of Inventor?
No, we're on Fusion and Inventor, depending on who the work's for and what it's for. But yeah, all the sim is just in Fusion for the most part, which is fine. I feel like Camplete and that kind of stuff is a bit over the top. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you were employing like less experienced people, or if you were doing like really crazy like simultaneous 5-axis stuff, like you'd want that kind of software. But for 3+2, I think it's pretty necessary. Fusion handles the sim just fine, especially if you do what Nick and I do and model the tool holders and the table and the like, you can actually model like your spindle, like the lower part of your spindle, like onto your holders, and that gives you even more like accurate sim. It's plenty, really.
That makes it very, very safe, except for the wildest of 5-axis moves.
Yep.
And really even the 5-axis moves are going to simulate fine unless you have a retract and reconfigure that's required. I think that's the only time where things get a little bit sketchy, because Fusion cannot simulate those moves at this time.
Yeah, and we actually got our post from Devin at 1186 Manufacturing, and the way he set it up for us, basically, like anytime that the table moves, the machine retracts to the top of the Z and like all the way to the back left. So basically your tool and your tool holders out of the way for any table movements. For positional stuff, obviously that's not the case for like full 5, but full 5-axis moves are like kind of so few and far between that it's totally fine. I think we've made like 3 parts that have required full 5 at this point.
Oh, you got to take on some more fun stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm breaking that out all the time. I am a huge fan of steep and shallow with collision avoidance. Mm-hmm. I'll just shove a stubby tool way down in a pocket and just let Fusion figure it out, and it's it'll stay 3-axis vertical as long as it can, and then I'll see it start tilting over, and then it'll start doing full simultaneous moves to get to the very bottom of a small radius or something.
Yeah, I actually haven't played with the cam too much for full 5. What's the common 5-axis tool path, or kind of like the go-to one? I forget.
Steep and shallow, I think.
Steep and shallow if you're looking for like a surfacing thing. Swarf, multi-axis contour.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of Swarf maybe. I don't know. We just don't use it a lot for now.
But yes, Fusion 5-axis is awesome. There's more stuff coming. It's the future is bright on that front. But just because I don't want to accidentally spill the beans on something early, I'm not going to dive into technical details about my favorite toys yet.
Okay, that's fair.
So we were just talking about how you kind of have to do funky stuff on the DMU sometimes when you don't have the work envelope that you would like. And Jeff just posted a picture in Discord of him with the DMU table rotated 90 degrees so that he can machine something.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yep.
That's funny.
There it is.
So what are you guys using to model the tool holder with the spindle? Because I think there's a utility you can buy that does the conversion right from a solid model, but I know I've had people reach out to ask about that before.
There was a free script that one of the Autodesk staff put together. I would be happy to send that to you, and then you can attach it in the show notes or something if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think Saunders might have a video about it somewhere, but it's one of those things that seems to just be passed from person to person. But it's the script is called Holder Creator New. It's a Python script. You add it as an add-on into Fusion. Okay. You then import a solid model. I think you've got to put like the tip of it
at the origin,
with it facing along the z-axis, and then I think you've got to you either have to be in direct modeling mode or you've got to have captured design history on. If it doesn't work in one, try the other. I forget which is which.
Okay.
At that point, you'll then activate the script, click on the body for your tool holder. And before this, feel free to boolean your holder to your spindle, like make it how you would want Fusion to interpret it. It'll then pop up like a save window, and you just save it as my new holder.json.
Right.
And then there you go. You've got your holder. It's saved somewhere on your hard drive. Go and upload it into your Fusion tool library like normal and apply it to whatever tools you want. Like, it does all the work. It does the revolve, and it creates all the segments for you. It doesn't handle fillets well. I think it just breaks them up into chamfers. So you may want to go and just pre-massage your model to get clean geometry, and so you don't have 1,000,001 segments. Like, simplify it a little bit beforehand.
Okay.
Because that also helps simulation performance.
Yeah, we use the same tool. It works really well. We actually don't have our spindle face modeled, which, I mean, is fine for what we do. Like, you can do it for extra simulation accuracy, but that's not necessary.
Right.
I really just don't want to bonk my head into the table when I'm at like 105 degrees or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Let's see. Back to you, Nick. Nystrom Performance was asking about chip and coolant management on the UMC 500. He's having a constant overflow issue on high material removal jobs he has at work, and they've got a 500 as well.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is too harsh on Haas, but what chip and coolant management? I'd say that's probably the single biggest issue on the machine. Like, in all honesty, it's manageable. It's okay. But for like, I know it's a budget 5-axis, but as other machines go, it's kind of a premium price compared to like a VF2 or something. And I was expecting them to put more than 5 minutes of engineering effort into this.
Right.
Basically,
like all the people I've talked to, they're like, I'd rather just dump into a trough and me hand scoop it than like having it constantly overflow.
Yeah, so the basic situation inside the machine, it's not too bad. There's like a couple of washdown nozzles, and there's enough coolant volume that generally, if you're running the conveyor, the chips will escape the machine and not build up too much. Maybe once in a while you got to get in there with a brush, but it's not too bad. It's not any worse than other machines I've used. Then the conveyor is supposed to convey your chips outside of the machine and into a bucket. It does that for like 90% of them. But like 10% of your chip volume basically bypasses it on the sides, flows underneath, and comes out with the coolant through the little slots that the coolant returns into the tank with. It then ends up in the top of the tank. If you didn't get the little mesh basket, I'm sorry, you will clog every single one of your coolant lines within 2 days, because I did that, taking pretty light cuts. Your chips will all go straight into your tank and then get sucked into the pumps and then clog all your lines. If you did get the little $95 mesh basket thing, then it will take you about 2 weeks instead. This little basket catches all the chips that are supposed to come out of the conveyor, and it clogs up really quickly. Like 45 minutes I've seen it happen from cleaning it to having a flood again. And then the little channels where the conveyor sheet metal ends, those clog too. So I got to get like a little piece of aluminum welding wire in there with a hook on it and like scrape them out. And yeah, just if you don't really keep up on the little mesh basket and on those slots, the coolant just kind of overflows the edge and you start getting drips on the floor. And if you ignore it further, then you get like a mess. They also use the exact same coolant tank as they use on the other machines, which would not be a problem, except the other machines have a rear coolant output. There's like a little trough that funnels the coolant and chips and stuff all the way to the back of the tank. They have some time to settle in the trough. They then have to come all the way from the back of the coolant tank to the front, where there's a little tunnel that leads to where the pumps are. So the coolant has plenty of time to deposit solids before it comes up to it has to traverse the tank twice before it gets to the pumps. On the UMC, it's a front output. So it drops right on top of that tunnel. So all of your solids and stuff settle right where your coolant is being sucked to the pump, and therefore end up at the pump really easily. There's no like mesh gate filter inside the tank. So you get chips everywhere. It's not good for the pumps. It's not good for the coolant lines. It's not good for the nozzles. So my sort of fix for all of this is just paying a lot of attention to the little mesh basket, cleaning it regularly. There's a retrofit kit they can do that actually does help quite a bit. They basically bolt some extra sheet metal on inside your machine. It makes a really tight fit between the edge of the conveyor and the machine casting, and that at least reduces the blow by probably 50%.
Okay.
And then finally, just put some sort of external filtration on. I got the same McMaster filter that John Grimsmo did, plumbed it up, and I go 3 months between filter changes, and I don't have any, like, there are 0 chips in my lines downstream of the filter. My pump is still getting beat up by all the solids in the coolant. Not much I can do about that, but at least it comes out where it's supposed to, and I never have clogging issues. And the bag filters are like $10, so no complaints there.
Awesome. Not to beat up too much on the UMC 500, but I did think it was interesting that you found an issue and Garrett was also talking about it. I guess there's some kind of TCPC bug that I think would be kind of a cool public service announcement so people don't crash their UMCs.
Yeah, so this is something I'm still kind of trying to characterize. Depending on your software version, there are some issues with the implementation of the tool center point control. So basically, like your simultaneous 5-axis, it's doing like the real-time rotary transformation so that you can essentially, you're not having to program off center of rotation. It's accounting for any like offset from your WCS to the actual center of rotation. Every 5-axis machine usually has some implementation of this. They call it different things. So anyway, it's there's an issue both with how like Fusion sometimes gives invalid outputs and you'll just get an over travel alarm. That's annoying. I'm working through how to fix that. But also, if you pressed feed hold as it was disengaging dynamic work offsets and engaging tool center point control, I guess there's just some software bug where it'll then try to go completely to the wrong place. So if you're running anything other than today's current latest version of the Haas software, call your HFO, get them to come out and update your software. The bug fix should be in, it's like 22.100. something or other. I'll send the software version so that you guys can request it specifically. But I actually just did this update yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to validate the fix. That was an entire saga of its own, trying to get them to let me remote update it, because they really didn't want to. They really wanted me to just give them a PO and have someone drive out and do this. Like very first, I say, hey, can you update my machine? They say, we need a PO to schedule service. Thanks. That was a productive conversation.
Which is insane. It's like it just makes you want to send them like, oh, well, I'm just going to invoice you if my machine breaks then because you didn't come out and do what you should have done for free.
Yeah, I don't have the time to be petty like that, but 14 emails later, they finally were like, okay, fine. Your machine can remotely update itself over the internet. Here's the update. We've pushed it to your machine. It should work. It failed 3 times on me, and then I found out that the reason it was failing was because my compressed air was off.
Oh, God.
Which is like, what? So I turned my air compressor on to go run another machine. I tried the update again, and then it worked. So then I had 14 alarms. The machine forgot that it had a B and a C axis. I got all kinds of weird stuff. It forgot half the parameters. I reloaded them from a backup. I taught it that I had a rotary installed again. And finally, it seems like we're up and running. Which is probably why they wanted to send a tech out, but I pressed enough of the right buttons, I guess, to fix it.
Right. Yeah. Well, Garrett was even mentioning that if he was seeing it if you applied 2 back-to-back TCPC toolpaths or something, and then like called it out on the XYZ line, it would go to the wrong clearance plane too.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's another issue. That's also part of this. So my workaround in the meantime was enable safe start all operations in the Fusion post. And that would allow you to do your 2 back-to-back 5-axis toolpaths without it erroring out, because it goes and it resets all the axis motion inside Fusion, and it assumes that the machine is starting from an unknown state, so it always basically safes everything. It means that you get some extra retract moves, but it does work. But if you get the latest post version from Fusion, I don't remember when I checked the release notes, but just very recently they changed the post, so it should fix that issue. And then Haas has an update that should fix some of the other issues. So in theory, we're good now. But yeah, their implementation is just kind of poor, which I'll talk more about this later. But the UMC may be leaving my shop at some point. IMTS, I think, is going to be very productive.
You mean very expensive?
Yes, that word. It's the same thing, just
glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing.
Yeah.
Juan, why don't we talk about you hiring another employee? Because it seems like it's been like such a force multiplier, even more so than just adding, another person to the shop.
Yeah, for sure. Even I hired my brother-in-law last year. His name's Frankie, and that was huge. He actually came into the shop with zero manufacturing experience. He graduated college with a physics degree, like right when like the whole COVID thing started. So basically, he had a degree that was like already kind of hard to find a job in, and then add COVID on top of that, and he just like couldn't find anything to do, and his mom was like, "Can you get him out of my house and and let him hang out with you and learn some stuff and fill his resume up?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So he came over and he started doing a little bit of day shifts, like doing simple stuff like just press and go on machines and like sweeping the floor, like menial tasks and stuff like that. And I started teaching him cam and how to set up and all that sort of stuff. And he started doing night shifts for me. We had a big job at the time, like a production job, and basically I was doing op 1 all day long, and then he would come in and do all the op 2s or whatever it was. So that was huge. We were getting basically like, I don't know, it's like 20 hours of utilization out of our new VF2 that we got. So that was cool. That was huge. That really propelled us forward pretty rapidly. And yeah, now he's setting up and programming and running parts independently of me. He's gotten really good at machining. Most of what he does now is the prototype stuff. So like, the average PO for us could be like, 20 or 30 parts, like between 1 and 10 of each. So the programming burden is pretty high, and we kind of put that on him. He does programming and setups really efficiently now. He's gotten really good at it. So that's kind of what he does. And then after that, Jeff Ludwig, which a lot of the Discord guys know, and probably some people on Instagram as well. He's from New Jersey, and he was kind of doing like a tour of multiple shops in the Instamachinist community at the time. I think he went to Easton Moria Manufacturing Shop. I know he saw John Split 141. He might have gone to see you, Dylan.
He didn't.
Maybe?
No.
No?
It was crazy. I think the ticket price to Arizona was like 2 or 3 times what it was to go visit the rest of you guys.
Yeah.
Like, nah, I don't think it's worth it. I was like, I completely agree. It's not worth it.
Yeah. He went and hung out with Pete for a while too. But yeah, he came to see our shop too. And at the time we were just hanging out. It was just meeting some guy from Instagram basically. And he ran parts for us for a week and just kind of hung out and just helped out. And I think like 2 weeks later, he was like, "Dude," he's like, "I think I would rather move to Florida." I was like, "Okay, well, if you do, let me know. I'll hire you." And that's what happened. Basically, he's like, "Yeah, let's get serious about this." So I drafted up a job offer and asked him what he wanted his title to be and how much he would cost. And we came to an agreement. Really, I just offered him what he asked me to give him, and yeah, he came down. I think he started in like, what month is it? It's August. Actually, to be honest with you, I have no idea when he started. But yeah, he moved down from New Jersey, and I actually put him up in my guest room for a couple months while he was looking for an apartment and getting that squared away. And yeah, he just moved out recently. He's got an apartment now, and he's been working here for a few months. And yeah, like you said, it's been another force multiplier. Jeff's really good at doing like non-machining things, and that's not to say he's not good at machining too, but he's really good at like organizing the shop and like putting things where they need to be in order to work like efficiently. You know, but he's self-sufficient as well. He can program and set up and all that on his own. At this point, like Jeff came from kind of a higher production shop, so I'm kind of still working on getting him more in the mentality of prototype job shop, where like, yeah, of good enough, basically. Where like the parts of course need to be right, but like we can't dial in a part for like 4 hours that we're making 2 of, you know?
Right.
Like if that blend wasn't perfect, or like that chamfer would look better if it was a little bigger, you know, it's like too bad. We're never going to see this part again. So
walk to the Scotch-Brite wheel and move on.
Yep, yeah, just program it, get it out, you know, quick and dirty, on to the next. Because I mean, he's got good habits for prototype or for production job shopping. Like, you know, he'll go through the CAM and rename all the operations to, you know, be more descriptive, and I'm like, dude, we don't have time for this.
3D adaptive, this is nice. 1-1-1-2.
Yeah, this is nice, and I can appreciate it, but this we can't spend our time on doing this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, you can't be tripping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Exactly. But yeah, 3 people has been nice. Honestly, I kind of wish we had a 4th on some days, but it's good to be somewhat lean. I'm feeling pretty good about our profitability and stuff like that, and that being said, I think in the long term, I'm probably looking at like 5 or 6 or 7 guys total. You know, I don't really know if I want to grow any bigger than that or not.
How has it been giving over the reins for that kind of stuff? Because like I know even Brad coming on full time, like I know he's a competent machinist, but it's like so hard for me to be like, no, like do it this way. This is the way, and it's like, no, this is your way, Dylan. Like there are many ways to skin this cat.
Yeah, I try to stay out of things until productivity is starting to kind of take a hit, like or if it's clear that somebody is struggling with something. I don't want to be a micromanager by any means, so like I kind of just, like, everybody here like programs their own parts, sets up the machine, and you know runs the part, and a lot of times inspects their own part. So yeah, in that sense, I try to be as hands off as possible. And like honestly, I don't really feel like these machines are my babies anymore. Like when Frankie first came in, like I was definitely looking over his shoulder a lot. But now, I mean, the VF2s are kind of almost like commodity machines to me. I don't really care that much about them. I just the DMU is kind of different. Like you know, we're about to teach Frankie on the DMU, and of course he'll be getting watched closely. But yeah, I mean, delegation has been actually kind of easy for me, just because, like, you know, we've been doing this for a while now, and there's a lot of things that I don't want to do anymore, and I'm happy to delegate them. And I also kind of realized that my job now is like quoting and talking to customers, and emails, and that sort of thing. So as far as the machining goes, I mean, yeah, they can do whatever they want, pretty much.
Okay, that's really cool. You mentioned inspection. You also got some more inspection equipment, and I know, Nick, you've been looking at possibly some more inspection equipment. I know I have too. I feel like as you start leveling up to wanting, you know, 5-axis machines and all that, you're like, okay, now I need a 5-axis CMM, or I need something like that. So
yeah, you're just constantly adding more variables that you need to check, because there are more and more places that things can go wrong. You know, talk about the tool center point control and other things. Like you have it's easy with the 3-axis machine to kind of define its accuracy. You have 3 axes, you've got, you know, their ball screw pitch accuracy and the machine rigidity and the you know, backlash and stuff. But then with the 5-axis, it's like, okay, now you have rotary axes with all of those, but then you also have all kinds of math going on in the control, and you get, you know, things rounding off, or you get just like inaccuracies in the implementation of the geometric. Like you're not just talking about like linear accuracy in 3 axes. It's now volumetric accuracy,
right?
Which is much harder to quantify and has a lot more potential variables.
Yeah,
and even just beyond the 2 rotary axes, they're not necessarily perfectly square. So both square to each other and square to the other axes. And it's actually really easy to stack up big errors if you're not very careful, or your machine doesn't have very good kinematic calibration and like management of that. And that's really where I'm seeing a lot of weaknesses with the UMC. It has a pretty simplified implementation of that, as opposed to what Siemens and Heidenhain and some of the other high-end controls can do.
That's fair. And
Yep.
Juan, you got, I guess it's a CMM, technically,
Yeah,
right?
we got a Keyence XM2200, which is, I guess they call it a handheld CMM, and basically what that means is you hold the stylus in your hands, and it's like an infrared system. You hold the stylus in your hand, and it's got like infrared transmitters on it, and then the machine has a receiver, so it sees these like 9 transmitters, which are all at known locations, and it can interpolate like the orientation of the stylus and where it's touching and blah blah
This
blah.
is a really fancy Wiimote.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. And I mean, yeah, the machine is cool. At first, we were kind of having some trouble with like repeatability on it, but then our Keyence sales guy, who's really good, by the way. I have to pat Keyence on the back for their post sale support. He came through and he was like, "Look, you guys are boneheads. You need to be doing this," and that kind of solved a lot of our problems. It kind of came down to just being consistent in the way that you held the probe and like how much pressure you're putting on the part when you're holding it. So I mean, yeah, the machine has like expanded our inspection capabilities. Obviously, like we can do like 3 datum true positions and stuff a lot easier than you could with calipers or height gauges or what have you. So that's been nice. However, I mean, the work envelope is like a little bit small, and it's like kind of cumbersome because like you've got to hold this relatively large probe in your hand, and you're trying to like fit that into your working area while also keeping the IR transmitter and receiver talking to each other. So you have to hold this thing at like a certain orientation in order to actually take measurements, which can be kind of a pain. Another thing about the machine is that like when you get a CMM, one of the biggest things that you're doing is taking a human out of the measurement. If that makes sense, you're taking like human like differences in how hard like you squeeze calipers onto a part. You're taking all that kind of stuff out of the measurement. And with the XM2200, you've got a CMM, but you're putting that element of measurement back into it. So it's kind of like taking one step forward or 2 steps forward and 1 step back in a sense.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been good. We can say that we can do CMM inspections on Xometry now, which is, that's actually opened up a bit of work for us. So that's fine. I'd say it pays for itself. I think we pay like $1,000 a month for it or something like that, which is totally fine for the work that it allows us to do now. But in the long term, I'd definitely just rather have a regular CMM.
Okay. And then Nick, what are you looking at possibly?
So I'm not really sure. I think I need a shop floor CMM of some kind. I don't know that a Keyence is a great fit for everything I do, and for some of the limitations that Juan just mentioned. Currently I have a giant surface plate. I don't need one quite as large as I do, so I'm thinking of just getting rid of that and trying to find a shop floor CMM that'll fit in its place. But I haven't done too much research on it. I was just going to go to IMTS, hit the metrology section and just see what was there, talk to people, and then make some decisions afterwards. But it's just so hard to get a feel for what's out there and what it can do just based on the marketing materials. And I kind of want to go and like talk to the sales guys, pick a top 3, and then go and maybe find some people who actually have them and use them. Sorry, I'm being distracted by the chat. That was totally the most distracting way to put that.
So I'm in the same boat though, where I think a shop floor CMM would fit me the best. Mainly because if we got one in our current space, that's all I really would feel comfortable. Like I don't have a clean room setting, so like even in our office, the shop that I'm in was used by woodworkers for years before we got it.
Yeah,
And
so there's
like,
just residual sawdust everywhere.
Yeah, and like I've got air filters in the inspection room that like collect a lot of it, but it's not perfect. So I don't want like a ton of really precise air bearing slides, picking up a bunch of sawdust.
Yeah, like in my shop, my dogs come to work with me, and we have a pretty small space, so they go wherever they want, and that unfortunately makes it a relatively harsh environment because they shed hair and everything. We try to keep it all clean, but yeah, I need something a little bit more robust. If it's a super delicate instrument, I don't think it'll be a good fit for us. And also, I don't necessarily need the accuracy that some of the very high-end CMMs can do. I mean, I'm machining things with a Haas UMC 500 for chip's sake. It's
right.
There's only so much I'm going to be able to do with that, and even with a future machine, really, I need something better than calipers, better than mics, that can inspect a wider variety of geometry than my current Tessa height gauge, which I love that thing, but it is only a one-dimensional measurement in the end. And maybe something, if it has some automation, if I can just, maybe I can drive it around by hand, record that, and then just say, okay, now do that 5 more times. Right. Or I don't know if I've heard nightmares about CMM software.
But that's one of the things I'm mainly going to go look at. Is I really want to press the Zeiss people and get a real demo of Calypso, because I've used PC Demus now for years. I know the demon that it can be. I think Hexagon makes amazing hardware, but like if Calypso is even 50% better or 25% easier to use than PC Demus, I'm all in. That I wish that the Fowler makes that ZCAT CMM, and that thing is like perfect for the size parts we do. It's just super expensive. Like it's, I think 60 or 70 grand when you start adding stuff to it. And it's like, well, at that point I might as well get like a real shop floor CMM,
Yeah. What's a Duramax cost? Is that kind of public knowledge?
I think they're 60, 70.
Yeah.
Maybe low 80s or something like that.
Okay, that's about what I expected.
Yeah. That's a nice machine for sure, but I think that's one of those things actually where you get it and you're like, damn, this is like a lot smaller than I expected it to be.
Right.
Like, that being said, we'll probably go for a Contura or something in that size range at least.
Yeah, so for me, I'm looking for the CMM not for Datron parts. That would really push up my size requirements, and I have a compact shop, and the Datron itself is quite accurate. It has a Renishaw TP20 CMM probe on it. It ball bars really well. If I go and put like a known size part in it, it measures it dead on. So it, for parts of that size, which generally have looser tolerances or will have like something like a bearing fit or like a dowel pin that I can check with hand tools like gauge pins or something, I don't think I need a CMM for that size part. What I need is a CMM for the fist size parts coming off the UMC and the other relatively small stuff.
Right.
So,
it's like 3D true position where it's like datums are on opposite sides of the part as the features you're machining. And that's when you're like, okay, I'd really like a auto CMM or a 5-axis CMM or something with a star probe or...
Yeah, just for the certainty, because it also, like in a lot of cases, I probably could make parts better on the UMC, but I don't have the feedback to say for certain, I guess, where everything is in 3D space, so it makes it hard to adjust. But what I'd actually love, and maybe I should just do this and send it off to somebody, is to go and like machine a cube on the UMC, maybe a couple different ways using like tool center point control at a tilt angle and then just doing it with like 3+2 at 90-degree angles. Go send that off to somebody and then recalibrate my center of rotation based on that.
Right.
Because the Haas built-in routines are not that great. Like I spent a lot of time this past weekend trying to check the machine kinematics since I've had it for about a year and make sure things haven't drifted on me. And the roll and the tilt check out, the table is flat. As far as I can tell, everything is pretty square to all the axes, and yet I still get little mismatches. So it's got to just be the center of rotation being off.
Right.
And if I can machine a part and have someone go and check that really accurately, I maybe engrave on it which face was which, I might be able to go and tweak those last couple 10,000ths in so that I get better blends on multi-axis surfaces. Or I just get rid of the UMC and save myself the headache.
Right.
That's also what IMTS is for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at IMTS. It should be a lot of fun. We're kind of looking for an auto saw, and if I can find one, like a whole building like DI system with a booster pump on it, so that I can take our like less than 2 gallons per minute into the shop and like deionize it effectively, or RO or whatever it is. I forget. I can't keep all the different kinds of water accounted for, but yeah, we're trying to improve our coolant water a little bit, and we can talk about this later maybe, but we're doing some more chemical stuff now, so I'm kind of trying to get the water squared away for that too.
Yeah. So on my side, I just got an RV water tank, and I store 25 gallons of nice clean RO water at any given time, and I've got a pump on that. Like a turnkey system would certainly be nicer, but I have maybe $300 into my entire system for the RODI. Like it's just a regular like under sink type, because I don't go through that much water.
Yeah.
It makes whatever 2 gallons per minute. It's pretty pitiful, but you go and pump that into a tank for a day and a half, and now you've got 25 gallons, which is usually enough to top up the coolant tanks in one or more machines at any given time.
Yeah.
Or go and fill a rinse bucket for part cleaning or something, and then by the time you need it again, it's filled back up. So that's a low cost solution, but yeah, I would be curious about the more industrial ones. I have to really limit the size of everything, just because my shop is 1,600 square feet, with a quarter of that being the office, where you've got a little bit more space to play with, and I'm very jealous of this.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, we do. We got lucky here. We got. I said it on the last time I was on the podcast, but when we first started, or when I first started my machine shop, I had 500 square feet maybe of this other company's space. They let me have space here on the condition that I would make parts for them quickly, and they would pay me like a regular machine shop. But I just basically had to kind of handshake deal that I would prioritize their stuff and make their parts fast. But they've since expanded also and moved down to Tampa, and I have inherited like 6,000 square feet of space now, which is way too much. But that being said, we've also managed to kind of fill it up because there's space in between everything. Like I've got like actually almost as much shipping and handling space as I've got like machining space right now, which is really nice.
Yeah, my entire shop fits in your shipping department.
Yeah,
easily, with room to spare.
And mine totally fits inside Nick's, inside your shop.
It's completely ridiculous, and the price is right too, which is the best part. Because I wanted to move up closer to home, but I toured like 5 or 6 shops or spaces, and it would cost us like at least double to have an equivalent space, like 20 minutes north of me. So yeah. That being said, we're staying here for a bit.
I don't blame you. So the last question we had from David Meyer was for all of us about how do we view company growth. He said, is it something you're actively reaching and stretching for, or do you let it grow organically? And I'm actually curious to hear how you guys feel about that, because sometimes it feels like I'm riding this wave that started out as like a little kiddie pool wave, and then it's just slowly becoming a tsunami, and I'm just like trying to balance as this whole thing keeps going, and you're like, more money's coming in and more money's going out, and it's just this crazy wave. So how do you guys view growth?
Yeah, you want to go first, Nick?
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Dylan. So right now we're seeing massive growth, which I guess is good, but it's really quite stressful. I'm trying to figure out how to keep my current customers happy, how to respond in a timely manner and take care of these new customers, how to maintain enough available capacity for everybody. And then also, like, as things are growing, like our revenue has, so since we started in 2018, we started at a pretty small number, but we're tenfold what we were the first year we were in this shop, which is awesome. And even over last year, we're currently on track for almost double what we did last year. But it's like, okay, this is pretty significant growth. It means that we've got some options, but I have a lot of big decisions that need to happen. I don't have great answers on right now, because I have to decide, Do we need to hire more people? If we hire more people, can I fit them in our current space? Because I don't have room for a desk for anybody else. Like we're tight right now. Everyone who comes in here always comments on like how tight everything's packed in.
Oh my God. I get that comment all the time. Brad, the other day, we had 2 or 3 visitors in a row, and he said the next person that comes in and says, wow, you're really packed in here, I'm going to kick him in the nuts.
Yeah, like it's snug, and I don't know that I have enough room. Like I have enough machines that someone could stand at a machine, but if they needed to sit down and program something, like I don't have somewhere for them to do that. And it's so tight in here right now. And then I'm trying to think, okay, so what can we do with our current space? So if I got rid of the UMC, I'm not really actually using my VM3 very much anymore because the UMC does all the complex smaller parts, and the Datron is so good at the bigger stuff that the VM would traditionally do. I don't do a lot of steel work usually, so I don't need a large machine that also has a beefier frame and spindle. So I'm thinking of just ditching the VM, maybe selling the UMC, and then at IMTS, one of my big things is I want to go find a compact 5-axis with a pallet changer.
You and me both.
Because I think that's the best way for me to continue to grow in my current space. I've looked at going to a bigger space, but the moving expenses and everything are just huge. The downtime. And then it's like, shoot, do I even want to stay in Florida? It's kind of hot here. I'm not actually a willing participant of this. I know this is the Florida Man podcast, but like I guess I'm not really here against my will, but it was an accident. This was not intentional. I am here, and now I have 70,000 pounds of equipment tying me down. So if I'm going to do a big move, then it's like, shoot, where do I move? Do I move locally, or do I just pick where I want to actually be, move everything, and then that's just another logistical nightmare. Reestablish all of our supply chains, all of our distributors, meet new people, possibly lose some of our customers who are currently local, and it's just like that is a massive, complicated process. So the easiest thing for now is to try and make the most of the space we've got, and strike while the iron's hot, as it were. And then if either our finances allow, or I just get really fed up with being 95 degrees for 10 months out of the year and humid, then maybe we'll look at something else. But
you have AC now, which is nice.
Although, yeah. So best decision I have ever made since moving into the shop was installing shop air conditioning. That was about $22,000 to have a 10-ton 3-phase unit installed in, I guess it was very late May. I think June 1st is when we were like completed with the install. 3-phase unit. It's 2-stage, so it can run on high to get things cool fast, and then it runs on low most of the day, which keeps the electric bill reasonable, and also prevent you don't have the harsh cycling where it gets warm and then it cools off really fast, which is not good for machines and dimensional accuracy. It just runs on stage 1, and it maintains. I usually leave it at 72 degrees, and it maintains plus or minus 1 everywhere in the shop. I talked with the guys who were doing the duct work, and we set the duct work up in such a way that it would distribute the air really well in the shop and it not blow right down on any machines or anything. So it's not a CMM clean room grade HVAC system, but versus before where my shop would swing from about 88 to 97 degrees and not ever cool down, even at like 3 or 4 in the morning with the doors open and fans going. Like it was brutal.
Yeah.
I dealt with that for too many years. This was worth every penny. And funny enough, another big issue with the UMC is its thermal management is terrible. So the air conditioning has doubled the effective accuracy of the UMC. It's far more repeatable. It's far more predictable. My tool lengths aren't jumping all over the place because they mounted the tool setter up on like an 18-inch long stainless steel stock that is on a casting that is like 8 or 9 feet away from the spindle. If you were to like attach a string from the tool setter itself down through the casting and up through the C-frame, and it's
what is that, like 1,000th of an inch per 100 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that.
Yeah, it's something crazy, and I would
Yeah.
actually see 3 to 4 thousandths variation between touching off one day and then after the machine was warm, and then I touched off another day. Like I had to every single tool I wanted to use, if I wanted it all to match up, I had to touch off every tool every time.
Oof.
But nowadays I don't actually worry about that. The air conditioning helped. The software update that added the new thermal comp algorithm helped. UMC owners ask for that. It's a patch they do, and it makes it better. Not perfect, but better. And then I'm thinking of grabbing my chiller now that so I have anodizing upstairs above my office, and I had a chiller for that so that I could get the anodizing down to a workable temperature. But now that my ambient temperature is normal, and I don't usually do like high power or large batch anodizing, the temperature rise isn't as much of an issue. So I might yoink the chiller from that and install it on my UMC coolant tank.
Oh, cool. That's
because I noticed that the pumps actually put quite a lot of heat into the coolant, and then between the pumps and then hitting the hot spindle and the cut and everything, the coolant is noticeably lukewarm when the rest of the shop is pretty chilly. So
yeah, we had a machine at my last job that we ran a coolant chiller on, and we didn't note it. We ran these parts on it that were on the 4th axis, and they got bored. And one day, all of a sudden, they started going way out of whack, like went from part to part. And then we realized, oh, the chiller is just not working. And like it was that much, and it was like a significant swing. Like it would swing like plus 0.8, minus 0.3 part to part, and you're like, holy shit, okay,
wow,
yeah,
that's pretty
Juan,
crazy.
What about you? Growth? How's that going? How's everything with that?
Yeah, growth. So like we were talking about earlier, I've got 2 full-time guys working for me now. So that means we can push a lot more parts out the door. But it also means that like there are a lot more headaches for me to deal with in terms of, like personnel. And I mean, my guys are fine, but just people come with things that you have to deal with. Like I'm gonna out my guys a little bit, but but Frankie and Jeff had a little disagreement the other day where like one of them was being kind of pouty, and I noticed it. I'm like, dude, like you've been in a funk for like 4 days. What's going on? And he's like, oh, the other guy has been pissing me off by doing this. And I was like, okay, like I don't think that he's trying to like belittle you or be mean or anything like that. So let me go talk to him. So I go talk to the other guy, and I'm like, hey, your counterpart feels like this for this reason. I know that you're not trying to like piss him off, but that's how he feels. So you should go talk to him, and you guys should get on the same page. So that's kind of what comes with having people work for you. You kind of have to actually start playing the manager role a little bit, which can be weird. Like I'm not good at that. It makes me uncomfortable, but I can't have my guys like not wanting to work together in a team because somebody said something that was like perceived as hurtful or whatever. So that kind of covers the growth in terms of people side, but yeah, I mean we're kind of similar to Nick. We've been growing our revenue year over year. We might have a 2 comma year this year, which would be just kind of mind blowing. But I guess you get there fast in a machine shop. And
it really seems to be exponential.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because
it's such a grind, and then you get some good equipment, you get some good customers, you get some good processes down, and I don't want to say it gets easier, but it's at least easier to make the numbers bigger, both in and out.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was about to say too. So the numbers in have gotten bigger, but I mean, the margins haven't actually changed that much. So, like we're making a lot more money, but we're also spending a whole lot of money. And like, I remember when I first started the shop, if I had $10,000 in the bank, like I was like, damn, I've got 10 grand. Like that's crazy. That's so good. And like now if I've got 10 grand in the bank, like I'm going to be out of business next week. Yeah. I've got a huge problem. So like we're spending now on a weekly basis what we used to make in a month,
Yep.
Right.
Which is it's crazy, and like it can be stressful at times, but you kind of self-correct. Like now, I've got like zero to me in the bank is like $100,000. Like anything less than that, like I'm kind of like, okay, we like I need to get some more money coming in because like like overhead is crazy. Like I've got like 10 grand in payroll every 2 weeks, like there's machine payments that amount to like $7,000, and just like working capital is huge. Like if we get a job in the door, we might have to spend like $5,000 on material. So it's like, it's just ridiculous. Like I pay the credit cards off like 3 or 4 times a month. Like, so yeah, I mean, and John Saunders always says, like cash eats growth, or growth eats cash for breakfast. And like, that couldn't be more true. Like I bought a Lang chuck the other day that was like $2,000. It's like, dude,
yeah,
it's insane.
But if you need it, you need it.
You need it, yeah. But it's like,
if it's going to make a difference to your productivity or your ability to complete a job, period, or like it, you just have to remember that a lot of these things aren't like an instant return on investment.
Exactly.
It's the cumulative over time effect, but it can be deceptive because you're always growing. There's always more things, so it always feels like you're not actually making money, even though you're spending more.
Yeah.
But if you were ever to just pause and like stop growing, stop improving the shop and everything, then yeah, it would look like you're doing really well right up until you realize you're falling behind everybody else, or the things in your shop are getting old and worn out. And so, yeah, it just never ends. That seems to just be how running a business is.
I'm kind of trying to change the way I think about growth from like having more machines and having employees to maybe having like more capabilities. Like I said earlier, like I don't really know if I want to have more than like 6 guys working here, including myself. But I do want to be able to do all kinds of stuff. Like I want to be able to do 5-axis work, and I want to be able to do chromate conversion, which is something we're working on right now, and passivation, and like I don't like turning work down necessarily, if it's good work. So like I'm kind of trying to grow our capabilities more so than I'm trying to grow our bottom line or the number of machines we have, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, did your stainless steel fitting fix your passivation bath turning green?
That fitting seems to be permanent. So I got a high temperature plastic bin to put in the ultrasonic. So then I'll just have water and then, passivation fluid in the plastic bin.
Okay.
Which I think should work, but we'll see.
Yeah, Nick, you got all kinds of people hooked on, I can do chromate conversion and I can do all this. I know Easton went home after going to your shop and it's like, I'm going to start doing chem film.
That's one of those things that like, yeah, you can do it, but there's doing it and then there's like doing it right. And those are 2 very different things.
It's deceptively easy, but the prep work is everything.
The prep work is everything, and depending on your customers, the verification and the like testing your like baths and stuff on a monthly basis is actually the hard part. Because I mean, at the end of the day, chromate conversion is dipping aluminum in some juice, and you take it out and it's chromate converted. But like how are you gonna guarantee that it's chromate converted and not just gold colored, right?
Right. Yeah, and with anodizing, same. You can anodize things relatively easily, but then at a certain point, you really need to know all the variables so that you can say, okay, this is actually building up this thickness, and it's reaching the correct hardness, and it's going to have the right amount of like UV resistance. And so I have like an entire chemistry set upstairs, and like calculators and notepads, and because whenever I go up there to anodize things, I've got to go and do a whole bunch of tests and titrate this and measure that and wait for the color to turn pink and count the drops and punch that into an equation, and then
and we're in Florida, so like this stuff evaporates, and this is all mixtures of like water and chemicals, so it's like you gotta stay on top of it. And and
a lot of it, like sometimes it has a shelf life. Like once you mix it, you can't just let it sit. Like you need to use it quite a bit, because otherwise it's just going to be bad in a month. So I kind of go through periods where I'm doing a lot of in-house finishing, and then other times where I'm just like, I don't feel like doing it today. And
did your new chemicals fix your problem, Nick? Because last time you were on, you were having like, I think, mold growth or something like that in your color tanks.
Oh yeah,
and you said you were trying out a new vendor for that stuff.
Yeah, the new dye vendor hooked me up. Their stuff works great.
Awesome.
Their stuff seems to be much more stable. Also, reducing my temperature in the shop from like 95 degrees down to 72 has also helped. like the overall longevity, because less creepy crawlies want to grow at 72 versus like right at human body temperature.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that actually, the air conditioning has had so many positive impacts on so many different aspects. Even like I was just doing it for comfort and maybe for like machine thermal stability, but across the board, it's reduced coolant evaporation. It's reduced the amount of growth that we get in just like rinse buckets that we leave laying around. Everybody's more comfortable and happier, and
Yep.
like I don't
That's what I
feel
was
bad saying like, hey, go run this machine for 2 hours or go stand in front of the bandsaw. Like if it's 70 degrees outside or 70 degrees inside, you're happy to do that. If it's like 95 and humid, nobody wants to.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I said that to you when I came to visit that one time, that like I think that kind of regardless of the cost, AC is one of those things that almost pays for itself instantly. Just based on like the productivity gains by not like sweating and like being 95 degrees in the shop, like it really does make work like
Not
so much.
being miserable really
Yeah,
helps.
like I used to leave the shop, or when I had my old job, it was really hot in the warehouse. I used to leave like with a headache every day because like I wasn't drinking enough water or whatever. But like you got to drink so much when it's 95 degrees. So
yeah. No, I've been pro AC the whole time. It's just been the logistics of getting that done, finding someone who's willing to give me the time of day as a small business, but also not a resident.
Yeah, and paying 22 grand all at once, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah, and it just the stars kind of had to align. But I declared in like February that I would not suffer another hot Florida summer without air conditioning. And yeah, no, it's been wonderful, and it's added about $300 to my monthly power bill, and worth every penny.
Oh yeah. The shop that we inherited, the people before us, they put in, I don't know what it is, maybe it's a 10-ton unit. They just like slapped it in the corner of the shop and then didn't duct it for some reason. So they did like 90% of the work, like all the expensive stuff they did, and then they left like the last 10% out for some reason.
Yeah,
so we just got that done.
Difference.
Yeah, we just got that done, and that's improved the back of the shop a lot in terms of temperature. So yeah, AC's huge.
But, yeah, no, and I guess in summary, because I kind of went off on a tangent there. So I think that we've got more growth coming for the shop, but I expect it's going to be on the machinery side and trying to make the most of what we have. Simply because moving to a bigger shop and hiring more people is such an endeavor.
Yeah,
that I don't think it makes sense for us at this time, even though like it would be transformative, but at the moment it would bankrupt me. So it's not the time. I'll just put machines in here. The machines will make me money. At the point where I need more of those machines and they've made me ample money, maybe we'll revisit it. But till then, we're going to stick with our 3-person crew and just try to train everyone's skills up so that I'm not doing the bulk of the programming and setup work and everything, so that I can delegate more of that. Like the other two, Katie, my wife, and Carl are formerly part-time and now full-time employee who we've had since March 2020. They're really learning fast. Like Katie does so much of our accounting and our customer communication and quoting and things like that it's kind of hard to get her out in the shop. But there are times when we don't have any of that to do, and she really loves the Datron, so I'm going to try to get her to be the Datron queen. And then myself and Carl will handle all the 4-axis and 5-axis and turning parts and everything. That way we can at least split the workload a little bit better.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah. Congrats.
Oh yeah, thank you.
To you and Katie.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most public-ish announcement. We didn't make a big thing of it, but figured it was probably time to simplify taxes and health insurance and things of that nature. And also, if I get hit by a bus, it's a little bit easier to say, oh yeah, this is my wife. Please let her in the room to see me. Then, okay, this is my long-term girlfriend who also runs a business with me. Like she's like my partner in life, but technically we don't have anything linking us other than too many machine loans and business documents.
Right.
Like that's a whole thing to explain, but you just say like, oh, this is my spouse. They're like, okay, I understand.
Yeah. My wife and I did exactly the same thing. We did the whole courthouse thing. We dated for like 6 years, and
yeah, I think we signed the paperwork on the first day of year 8. We just it's been long enough.
Ours is like I mean, obviously, like we love each other. I mean, we dated for 6 years and we're married and stuff like that. But I needed health insurance at the end of the day, man.
Yeah, like it feels kind of crappy because it is a little utilitarian, but also like we've been functionally doing the rest of it for years now. It's just like, we should probably formalize some of this for recognition of government and other institutions. Like,
it must be a theme for machinists because my wife and I got married on our 11th anniversary, and it was like, well, in many states we are technically like
common law.
Common law. Yeah, exactly. It's like this. We might as well.
We're all very practical people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think going back to growth a little bit, our growth probably looks the same or pretty similar to Nick's. We're gonna kind of try to keep it small, but like I don't want to grow anymore in terms of personnel until like I can give the existing personnel like common job benefits. You know what I mean? Like I want to get wages up. I want to get like 401k and health insurance and stuff like that. So like it feels kind of not great as a leader to like be bringing in more people when your existing people don't have everything that they should have. You know what I mean? So I think somebody said something about like organic growth in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think making sure that your people have what they need before you like keep buying like $500,000 machines is important. I guess.
Sure.
Totally agree. Yeah, I would, and especially like machines aside, if you go and hire a bunch of other people at kind of a poor wage, and without benefits and like you don't want to be one of those businesses that people will jump ship on for another $1 or $2 an hour.
Yep,
you want to be the place where everybody gets along and enjoys the culture and feels like they're appreciated. And they get paid fairly or even well.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've been trying to give our guy regular increases just so that it covers the current cost of living increases and inflation that's going on, and reflects his skill growth, that because he came in knowing nothing about manufacturing and now he's like programming and setting up machines, and like, okay, I want to make sure that he feels that is being recognized and encourage him to continue on that path. So I try to pay pretty competitive rates for him, and I'd rather pay him better than and just have him be a rock star than bring in another person or two and have to pay everybody.
That's extremely
poorly.
expensive too. Like you might as well pay your guy like a great wage instead of like spending the 20 or 30 grand at the end of the day, like onboarding a new guy. You know what I mean? Because I mean, you can't really put a number to it because it's kind of qualitative. But like bringing on new people is extremely expensive in terms of like lost productivity because you're teaching them.
Yeah, it's months before they're really part of the team and can do everything and understand how the shop works. Yep. And that's even if they have prior knowledge of manufacturing and like machining. If they're coming in completely fresh, like maybe they've got a good attitude but just haven't done this before, tack on another few months to just get them acquainted to all the terminology and like what things should look and sound like. And
right.
It's a whole process. I'd rather take care of my people and build capacity via automation, not just warm bodies.
Right. Yeah, that's where we're at too. I kind of want to move away from. I mean, we do a lot of work for Xometry. Like recently, this year, I think we've done like 45% of our work's been through Xometry, or I guess I should say revenue. I don't know about job count, but I'm trying to move away from them just because like, there's money to be made there and stuff, but it's like you are beholden to this publicly traded corporation who at any time can just be like, they can just kick you to the curb, or they can be like, these parts are not good because we don't know how to measure them.
Right. Or the algorithm says, I don't like you anymore.
Yeah. It's just like, it's not a human over there, it's like an entity that like,
you never talk to the same people twice. You don't get to build a relationship with your customers. And those things, like if I have a simple question about a part with them,
it takes like 4 days, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, like
It's insane.
if I
Yeah.
just knew the customer, I could call them or I could email them and probably have
Yep.
a response in 20 minutes and get
Yep.
their stuff done on time and not late because I was waiting for clarification on something pretty simple but important.
Yeah, so you're waiting 4 days for an answer on like, hey, this, like, can we do a chamfer instead of a fillet here?
Yeah,
And the lead
or
time is 5 days, you know? So,
yeah,
and
or
then, like,
the
and they're
part
like,
is
what?
12 millimeters thick, but then they
Yeah.
specified a hole to be 12.8 millimeters deep. I'm like,
Right.
did you want
Yeah,
this to be a through hole or is there something else going on?
Yeah, so you're waiting on like the DFM team to answer your question about that, and meanwhile you've got like the you know, regular people who work there who were like, why hasn't this shipped? This was due yesterday. You know?
Yeah, and
So
then they ding you
that's
anyway.
the biggest thing. Yeah, that's the biggest thing to me is that like they don't seem to have like a consistent way of communicating with people. Like people, like I just said, like you're talking to like 3 people about the same subject at once, and none of them have any idea that like you're talking to somebody else about it at the same time.
Yeah. Now I do have to say, so I do a little work for Fictive as well, and they're better about that. They're much smaller. They're in the like singular hundreds of shops rather than thousands like Xometry.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a dedicated account manager, and usually you see the same people in the QC team, and you see the same people on the logistics team, and the same people are distributing jobs to you, so they kind of get a feel for what you like. And just because they're smaller and haven't yet become a nameless, faceless mega corporation, I find that they're better, even though their business model is essentially the same.
Yeah.
I
and
like
Xometry used to be like that too.
Oh, yeah,
as soon as you got listed on the NASDAQ or the Dow or whatever they're on, like everything goes out the window.
Yeah,
like everything is like money at the end of the day.
It's definitely changed.
So let me ask you guys this, because I get, tons of DMs and stuff of people like, oh, what do you think of Xometry? Should I start out with Xometry? Knowing what you know now and where the company is currently, would you recommend a small shop pursue Xometry for work?
Yes.
Yeah, they have been responsible for filling in all the little gaps. Do not rely on them as your primary source of work. Have another plan, meet other customers, diversify as much as you can. But they're a wonderful fallback option for those slow months when you just need some work coming in the door. They have, I think I've probably done $300,000 worth of work through them, or probably more at this point over the years. So it's, it's not the bulk of our business, but it's also not a negligible amount. Like they are very much what have kept us afloat, especially in the early years.
Mm-hmm. I would say the same as Nick. However, if you, and it's kind of weird. Like if you're a guy with a Tormach in your garage and you want to make some money on Xometry, you can. But like if you've got significant overhead, like if you've got maybe, like we do, like 2 VF2s and a DMU, and you don't have any like special certs, like say you're not ITAR compliant, or you don't have ISO or whatever, like it's going to be hard for you to find work to pay your machine payments, I would say, because like you'll see jobs on there that legitimately like you will profit like $100 on like 3 hours of work,
right?
Maybe,
Well, and the jobs that get posted are frankly brutal. I mean, it's not easy stuff. The easy stuff gets sucked up, or they send it to their overseas people, because the folks that are just posting blocks with holes, they want it cheap, so they send it to, I think they have various partners in China. So the stuff that gets posted to the US board is usually very demanding, and if you just have a 3-axis Tormach, I think you're going to struggle to find stuff that's going to make you money. Or even if you have VF2 or something, there's a lot of parts that truly need 5-axis, and even then you've got to go and negotiate with them to try and get a reasonable price that you'll make money on.
Yeah, we very rarely take the offered price. I mean, we take a lot of jobs from them, but like most of the time, it's off of a feedback offer, which is like, we'll double the price and say we'll do it for this job, and you don't get all of those. But
I would say I'm the same.
To make money on there. Yeah.
I almost never take the listed price. It's extremely rare that it's fair, especially for some of these really crazy parts. But then they'll struggle to place it. And I think they'll either go back to the customer and say, hey, actually, we quoted you wrong. Can you pay us more? And the customer's like, oh yeah, we thought that was too good to be true anyway. Or
Yeah.
they'll take a hit from jobs that they have positive margins on. They'll take negative margins on something just to get it made, and they'll pay us a bit more. But
Yeah, they're in like kind of that startup phase where they're still trying to gain market share. And that being said, like they will definitely take a loss on new customer parts in order to get that customer in the door. And frankly, those are the ones you can make some good money on. But
I will
yeah, I mean,
sometimes double, triple the price. Not because I'm trying to be a jerk, just because legitimately they quoted it so low that like for the lead time and the part geometry and just the sheer headache of it all, like there's no way that like I can barely buy material for what they initially offer, but then I'll go and quote it like I normally would, and then they'll say, oh yeah, that's after 2 or 3 days they'll be like, yeah, nobody else wanted this, so sure, have it.
Yeah, I would say like don't approach Xometry like they're your friend or like they're your customer. Approach them like they are the mega corporation that they are. And I mean, they're trying to extract as much money out of you as they possibly can. They don't care about you, so you got to do it right back if you want to make it, man. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, you've got to be fast at what you do to make money. Like Xometry, I would say if you want to get really good at job shopping and have a trial by fire, they're a good way to do that. Get a lot of experience quickly, and also make your mistakes with a customer that you don't really have a great relationship with.
Yep.
Obviously, you want to try to keep them happy because then they'll send you more work. But because you don't have the direct connection, like if you're going to screw up with anyone, that they've got other shops they can go to if you get in over your head.
Yeah.
Over time, we've figured out what we can do, what we can't. So it's very rare that we take on anything that's too much for us. But in the early days, I mean, sometimes I'd go, oh yeah, I can totally do that. And then there's some hidden feature that I didn't really look at the part thoroughly, and then I realized, yeah, it's like, oh well,
suddenly this part is
losing money on this.
Went to very difficult.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's deceptive because also everybody on the board is looking at. I mean, not the same jobs. They divvy it up a little bit, and different shops with different capabilities and job histories and everything will see different subsets of jobs. But generally speaking, you're not the only one looking at that job. There are other people, and you might go, oh, well, let me just double check the material price and let me look at this print closely. And then you go to click acceptance. This job is no longer available.
It's gone. Yep.
You've got to be fast, but sometimes like you have to be fast but thorough, and it really trains you to quickly evaluate parts and decide very quickly, almost just based on feel. Like, am I going to make money on this or not? And so maybe it's a good exercise to just scroll through and price some manually. Even if you are going to be too slow, just go download the files, check them out, take note of what their price and lead time was, and then figure out, can I do that? Would that make me money? Like, be honest with yourself, especially as a new shop. And then over time, if you get good at that, it's going to help you with quoting your other customers. And then also, if you want to do Xometry or other similar job bureau middleman work,
right,
you're faster and more accurate at what's a good fit for you and what you either need to counteroffer on or just pass on entirely.
Totally.
Yeah, we do some of that too, just kind of feeling jobs out and accepting them. We do that a lot, but
sometimes Friday evenings.
Fridays are big.
Everyone's gone home. They've got all the leftovers from the week. I'll go in and just shotgun offer a bunch of I don't really want to do this prices. And then like Saturdays sometimes, or usually on Monday or Tuesday, they'll come back and accept 10% of them. And I'll have the opportunity then to decide if it's still a good deal or not.
Right.
But that's kind of my strategy for them. If I've got some open time the next week, I'll just... It's basically the make me really want to do this price, because usually there's stuff I wouldn't actually willingly choose to do, but it's a good challenge and it can make good money. But like, it's brutal. It's very competitive.
Yeah, I feel like most of the time parts are getting to Xometry because whoever sent them to Xometry has already sent them to their local shops, and their local shops
and they got no quoted or ignored or
18-week lead time or
exactly.
Yeah, and then Xometry's instant quoting thing is like, oh, well, we can just like magic this with the awesome 6-axis machine that somebody has that gets magically programmed, and you can do that in 2 days, right?
Right. Yep, exactly.
And this weird custom material that can only be bought in truckloads.
In mill orders, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
so,
right.
and anyone new to Xometry, just heed those experiences. There's money to be made, but like I wouldn't say it's easy. Like if you want easy work, just go troll your local industrial park and say, hey, I've got a milling machine. Do you guys need stuff? You'll find people who need stuff or know a guy who knows a guy. And that's going to be a little bit easier entry.
Definitely. Well, for shop news and new things, I was thinking we could all quickly talk about what we're looking for at IMTS. I know, Nick, you put a bunch of notes, and I'd love to get to them, but I know that we all need to make parts today. So, go ahead, Nick. What are you looking for? You said 5-axis. What machines are you looking at? What specs are you looking for? Anything else that you're hoping to get?
Yeah. So we can speed run this. So yeah, the new machines. So I'm primarily looking at a 5-axis, a compact 5-axis specifically with automation and preferably integrated automation. So not like a third-party bolt-on solution if I can avoid it. Either something where the manufacturer works with them closely, or it's just a OEM, option on the machine that comes with it. So I was, believe it or not, seriously considering KERN Micro Vario because it's oddly enough, it meets so many of my specs. It fits in my shop. It has a high-speed spindle, which the Datron has spoiled me with, and I kind of dig that. And the working area is plenty for most of my parts. Fist-sized parts, it'll do all that. It's very fast. It's more accurate than I'll ever need. It has like 100 and something tools standard, and then you can have the internal pallet changer, or you can buy an Aroa for it, and then you've got 200 tools and however many pallets. So that was actually an option I was seriously considering, and it's still on my radar, but it's obviously a very expensive option. It fits in my shop, and
Right.
it has
ticks
a lot,
a lot of boxes.
It has a lot of things going for it. Like the price is just that's pretty much it. That's the thing that at least kept me looking for other options. I've looked at Hermle, I've looked at Micron, I've looked at Matsura. Matsuras, I've heard, tend to tip over their FANUC controls. They have some other little issues here and there. Like, I'll check on them, I'll talk to them. They're on my radar, but they're probably not my first choice.
Yeah. I know my Yamazin salesman is always upset with me because, I've told him I'm not a big fan of FANUC for 5-axis. And I'm not a giant fan of their PC pallet changers. Like, they're just very space inefficient, it seems like. And like, I haven't brought in the model into Fusion and actually seen how it looks next to like a Speedio, but like, it looks like I could fit like an S500 in the same spot that like a 6 pallet pool fits.
Pretty much.
Like, that sucks.
So I'm kind of looking for something north of a UMC, south of a KERN, unless KERN wants to make me a wonderful deal. Looking at you, Dan. I'll talk with you at IMTS. And Lawrence, with the long last name, Lawrence like Windshank or something. Anyway, other Instamachinist guy, I was talking with him, and he mentioned that Doosan, or DN Solutions now, is coming out with the DVF 4000.
Right.
And the DVF 4000 is about UMC 500 sized. It has a pallet changer option. I think at the machine, they're going to have one with 12, but I believe it's expandable up to 36 vertically.
Yeah, so they have the AWC that Jeff posted on the Discord that's like up to 40 pallets on the DVF 5000. So I'm kind of wondering the same if there's going to be a slightly smaller version of that for the 4000.
Yeah, if they had a slightly smaller version of the DVF 5000 and its associated pallet changer, that would be a very appealing option. And I've heard, so they come with FANUC, I want to say, but I've heard you can ask them nicely and they might put Heidenhain on it for a fee.
I had heard that as well. Since you posted about this, I've done some research, and it's very bizarre. DN Solutions has possibly one of the worst websites on the planet for machine tools. I don't know how one that is like seems like it's so interested in marketing can be so bad at building a website. It takes forever to load. It shows none of the actual options. They don't show Heidenhain on their website. They don't show HSK as an option on any of these machines either.
But HSK is an option.
Right. So I don't know what actually will come on this machine. I've also now been told since then that our local dealer of Doosan, a friend of mine who owns a shop in town, they just flat out refuse to quote a Doosan DVF with Heidenhain. Like they wouldn't give him any reason, and they were just like, nope, it's just not an option for you. And so like he kind of theorized like, oh well, they just probably don't have anybody who can fix it.
Might be.
So
yeah,
I'm
so
also very interested in the 4000 as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions I have, and that's the entire reason I'm going to IMTS is to get some of those answered, because they're going to have one there, and I assume they'll have the people who know about it. But yeah, I'm really interested in that machine, or maybe even the 5000. But I just need to gather more info, get some people's opinions, their real world experience, because people have complaints about every machine out there. I just need to figure out, okay, are the overwhelming majority happy with it? And there's a couple flukes, or are the overwhelming majority having problems with the machines? And the happy ones are the oddball. So I'm looking at those. I also am looking at like a DMU50, depending on their palette changer solution. Hermle, same thing, like a C250 or something. But their palette changer is equally bulky as Matsura's. And that's really what it comes down to, is I need to find, like most of the machines will fit in my shop, but the palette changers are all ginormous, and I need fist-sized parts. That's what I need. I'll manually palette change anything bigger if I need to. But if you can hold a dozen even, that buys my evenings and weekends back, because I spend too many hours at the shop because I need to load parts that are a 10-minute cycle. Yep. But they're full 5-axis, or they need access on every side, so I can't easily gang them up. So I just want to load 10 of them, run the first one during the day, go, yep, that worked, and go sleep or eat some food or something, and get some of my life back. And I'm willing to buy a rather expensive machine in order to pull that off. Because at this point in my business, I feel like we're kind of out of the super bootstrapping stage, and I'm in the reclaim my life stage. But sometimes that may mean, like, it's not just work less or take fewer jobs. I want the business to continue to grow, but I'm trying to figure out where our inefficiencies are. And really, everyone in my shop needs to be programming parts or inspecting stuff or packing things. The machines should be able to change parts out themselves, especially if we're running multiples of the same one. So a pallet changer is the obvious solution. But we do such a variety that I can't just stick a robot arm in front of it and have it do part loading with an air vise. Yeah. It needs to be able to change the entire fixture and stock and everything out on its own. So, and even like a Trinity system, I've looked at those, but I don't love that it's a full robot arm in there. And I think if you're going to spend that money and buy a system like that, and a Rowa Compact 80 is a better choice, and you can retrofit those onto almost anything. Yeah.
But it seems silly to have a 6-axis robot doing 2-axis robot things.
Yeah, you need a rotary axis, and really you need 2 linear axes and a rotary axis. You're up and down, you're in and out, and spin around.
Yeah.
That's extra complexity on the robot arm style.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm just going to kind of wander around IMTS in the machining section. I'll see if there's anything that looks interesting that I haven't looked at, and otherwise I'm going to go and harass Doosan. And DMG's got their event going on in parallel. I'll be over there on Sunday, maybe a little bit Monday morning.
Us too.
Okay.
See you there.
Yeah, we'll have to do the evening activities and everything. But yeah, I'll see what DMG's got. I know they've got pallet changer options. I'll see what Matsura, Hermle, Doosan. I'm not looking at Haas. Their pallet changer is oversized and dumb. Also, I'm not...
You talking about the gantry loader, like 80/20 thing?
Yeah, I think so. Or there's also the big, like, rotary one.
Yeah.
Oh, the one for, like, VFs.
They sell it for the
UMCs, too?
They have it for the UMC now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony at Autosports just got one.
Yeah.
I have to check in and see how he's doing with it once he's had it up and running for a bit. But it's bulky. It's not space efficient for me. He's got plenty of space, so maybe it works for him. But like, I have reliability issues with my UMC, so I'm not going to go and pay money to buy and integrate an automation solution on this. I'd rather sell the machine. It's still in pristine shape. It still makes good parts. It's just, minor headache inducing periodically. And I'd like to just upgrade to a rock solid machine with automation. Yep. So if I can find something in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, I'd be comfy with that. More than that, I'm going to have to really think on it. Less than that, I'm not really sure I can get what I want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm expecting. And then past that for IMTS, casually shopping for a shop floor CMM, casually shopping for a Y-axis lathe.
Okay.
Maybe Doosan will make me a deal on DVF 4000 pallet changer and LS 2100 or Lynx 2100 LSYB or
Right.
something. Because I think that's the machine I want. I saw one last week, and I think it would do everything I need. Seth at Liberty Machine has one. He's happy with it. Everyone I talk to is happy with their Doosan lathes. I think Pearson's got several.
Yeah.
So I think that would be fine. I just my Kia is from 2003. I don't have a Y-axis. I don't have a good source of parts or support for it. So if anything happens, I'm kind of SOL. I'd rather sell that as a functioning machine to another little startup, pay it forward a little bit and just plop something modern in its spot that I can rely on that has competent documentation and sub-spindle programming and a post that I don't have to build from scratch and things like that.
Yeah, sounds good. What about you, Juan? What are you looking for at IMTS?
A auto bandsaw that can cut like 12-inch diameter rounds would be awesome. I'm sick of cutting like 2-inch thick bar on my vertical bandsaw. It totally sucks. We've got a DeWalt chop saw, which is cool for like smaller stuff. Like it's a lot faster than the vertical bandsaw or whatever. But really, I just want to be able to have an auto horizontal saw that can cut like 10 or 100 or whatever of something accurately and straight while I'm doing something else. We literally find ourselves wanting a horizontal bandsaw like on a weekly basis. So it's about time at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, we're working on getting chromate conversion in-house right now because I'm sick of sending stuff out for a week or 2 weeks to get dipped in a bath, and then it comes back late and damaged, and I got to pay the shipping and blah, blah, blah. So we're bringing that in-house, which has turned into more of a headache than I expected it to be. You can buy like chromate conversion kits online, but they're actually kind of limited in what you can do with them. We're trying to do class 1, class 2, we're trying to do type 1, type 2, both of which in classes 1A and 3. I think that's kind of the common stuff. And you just need a lot of infrastructure to do that, as it turns out. You want like DI rents and stuff, and you want some heaters, and you want like constant overflow, like pump baths and stuff. It's a lot. So I'm kind of working through that right now. And that being said, on that note, we're looking for, like I said earlier, a full building DI system with like a booster pump installed to it, so I can have DI on demand, basically, so I can rinse parts with it, like into the sink, stuff like that. So, yeah. Cool. We're also kind of out of air at this point. The DMU is like really particular about how much air it wants and the pressure at which it gets the air, and we basically can't sandblast or like dry off a lot of parts with compressed air and run the DMU at the same time. So we kind of are looking for a second compressor. I'll probably just get another Quincy because that's what we have already, but I'll probably go swing by the compressed air area and just see what's out there.
I'm really happy with my Kaiser. That thing has been rock solid for me, although I've also outgrown it. Ran into the same thing. I can't bead blast parts at the same time as machines are running. The Datron's really air hungry. It's constantly running the air purge. It's got the ethanol mist coolant, and it uses probably half my air capacity alone. And then you fire up another 2 mils. You blow an air gun once in a while, and like it does it. But then if I ever need to bead blast a part at the same time machines are running, I pretty much can't.
Over. Yep.
Yeah. So for those ones, I'm probably going to just buy a 7.5 horsepower to go along with it. Put it side by side because you can network them. And then on low demand days, they'll kind of ping pong back and forth to keep the wear even. And then on high demand days, they'll cooperate. And that would also double my tank storage capacity. And they're so compact because they're kind of a vertical standing unit that it fits well with my shop.
Yeah, you need an auxiliary tank with those things, right?
No.
Or does yours have a tank built in?
No,
okay.
I have the air tower, and it has a 60-gallon tank, 5 horsepower compressor, and air dryer, all in one nice compact unit. It looks like a minion. It's like,
yeah, it does.
It just needs
really
some goggles.
That's
I can see it
awesome.
off your right shoulder.
Oh yeah. But no, I mean it's been rock solid. I should have bought the 7.5. It was only a marginal increase. I was trying to keep my power demand low, which is the reason I didn't get the bigger one. But now that the air conditioning's installed and I kind of know what I'm working with, I've never seen my shop above 85 amps, and I've got like 135 or 150 depending on who you ask. So it's a little dubious. Power company says one thing, electrician says another. My own math on the wire size and length says another thing entirely. So it's somewhere in that range. I try not to melt things, but I could, like, I think that draws like 7 amps right now or something.
Yeah.
So I could happily fit another one of similar size without any real issues. Like the air conditioning is what I was basically saving all my amps for.
Yeah, we're kind of doing the same thing. Like we've got, I think, 200 amps here, or we've got basically 2 units. So we've got like 200 amps of 3-phase and like 50 amps of single phase. And like we're pretty much maxed out as far as the electrician's concerned. Like we could probably have a couple more machines in here, but like he really doesn't want to put any more like breakers and or any additional load into the system. You know what I mean? Even though, like, yeah, our system never peaks above like 80 amps.
Yeah,
like when he came last time, we were like starting and stopping all the spindles at like exactly the same time to see how high it would go, and yeah, it like never went above 80, but he's still uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, well, and the DMU has a 50 horsepower spindle or something.
Man, I don't know any of the numbers on that machine, to be honest with you, but it's actually
big.
Yeah, it's big, but that machine actually runs on 600 volts, and it's got a transformer. It came with a transformer, yeah. So yeah, just kind of a good thing.
The Datron's 400 volts, and it's the same. Actually, the biggest power draw in my shop, I think, is the vacuum pump for the Datron. That was surprising for me.
Yep.
It's a 4 horsepower vacuum pump, but it draws that 100% of the time it's on, and you run a 4 horsepower load for 6-8 hours a day, and that really racks up the power bill. It's actually worse than the air conditioning by far. And like when I got the Datron, it pretty much doubled my power bill.
Sheesh.
I mean, that's because I keep it running, and it more than pays for the additional electric cost. But it's a relatively expensive machine to run, just because the vacuum work holding is kind of inefficient.
Yeah. Is the what is it? Alcohol? Like
It's 200 proof ethanol.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a 55-gallon drum. No, it is $600 for a 55-gallon drum.
Oh, geez. That's a lot less than I thought it would be.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's looking like a drum is going to last me 8 or 9 months.
That's not bad. Yeah, that's cool.
So,
my coolant costs more than that on my machine.
I was gonna say, yeah, coolant's like double that.
Yeah, almost. No, it's quite a good deal. It's a full loss system, but you don't use a lot of it. It's a 9-liter tank. How many gallons is that? Is it like 2.5 gallons, 3 gallons?
Like 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll last me a week of normal machining, or like 3-4 days of like really hard, had to turn up the alcohol for deep pocketing machining. But like normal stuff, I don't know, I fill it when the machine says it's empty, and it'll pause and say like coolant tank number 1 is empty, and then it'll turn off the spindle, feed hold. I walk around back, I fill it up, I press go again, it picks up where it left off. Like it handles all of that really elegantly.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm looking for basically the same thing you are, Nick. I don't want to hire anybody because I have worked in the job pool here enough, and I know the people who are out there.
Fair enough.
I would much rather spend that money on automation and all that. So yeah, I'm looking at the DVF 4000, C250, things like that. I don't know. We'll just see. And then
I will see you at one of the booths. Yeah. Almost surely.
Oh, you got to find yourself a Instamachinist madman like Jeff, who's willing to move across the country.
Can we have Jeff? Can I have Jeff?
Can he float? Like, can we each get like 3 or 4 months with him?
No, we need him here. Sorry.
Can I have him on the weekends? Or between the hours of 11 p.m. and 8 a.m.?
I could lease him to you.
Right?
Yeah, no, I need a Jeff clone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really the only way I'd hire somebody, because everyone here who I've worked with is either way too expensive, like they're engineers that are getting paid Raytheon money, or they're people that are the kind of people who would take a production job and then turn it up to 200% feed because they felt like it and they were bored. And it's like, well, I don't need you in my shop.
All your spare end mills start disappearing, and then they're on eBay.
You're right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a good one.
Brad had a weekend once at his last job where I think the weekend shift at his job went through 6 or 7 $200 thread mills without raising any alarm. It was just like, yep, just throw another one in. Let's keep trying. And it like turned out that it was programmed for the wrong size or something. It was just like rubbing it to death in steel, and nobody said anything. And it's like I can't afford to have somebody like that in my shop. So
yeah, you need someone who's got a clue, who cares a little bit. And there's definitely those people are out there, but they're usually pretty in demand, and
right.
Find places that they're happy pretty quickly. So when you come across them, you've got to scoop them up, or just pretend that those sort of people don't exist and figure out how to do it yourself.
Yeah, I like what you said about scooping them up, because like when I hired Jeff, like I was not ready to hire Jeff. Like we had just dropped like $100,000 on the like DMU and the Lang and the tool holders and everything that comes with it, and that's like the most stressed I've been in my entire life. Actually, I thought I was gonna die, and like at the same time, Jeff was like, "Can I come work for you?" And I was like, shoot, like I want Jeff also. So like that was a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I mean, like I felt like if I didn't hire Jeff at that point, like he probably would have ended up at like Dylan's shop or something, and I would have lost him. So
And if he had visited me, maybe I would have grabbed him.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. No, I think that like when my plan is to really like do the automation thing, get that workflow dialed, and then start bringing in people and training them on that, like how I want that the shop to run, basically.
Yeah.
And when we get to that point, my guess is I'd much rather partner with like the local community college I went to for machine tool, and like talk to my teachers there and be like, who is a promising candidate that I can train? Because like I'd much rather pull somebody that I know what kind of education they're getting and then build on that, rather than like pull somebody in who's 10 years older than me and has 30 years of bad habits I have to unlearn.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Just train like 1 or 2 guys, and then, if you start bringing in additional people, then the original ones can train the new guys, and you can kind of delegate that. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, 5-axis I'm looking at. Like I said, I want to get a deep dive on Calypso, so I'm hoping I can push some people out of the way on the Zeiss booth and just sit down at a computer and have them show me how to run it.
Yeah, I need to come with you for that. I want to see that as well.
Okay.
We'll just have to get a whole like conga line of Instamachinists just going from booth to booth.
Yes.
Absolute chaos.
I'll go meet up at KERN and then go from there.
Yeah. So speaking of which, I'm going to announce it here. I'll post it on my Instagram. We are doing a big Instamachinist meetup on Wednesday at 3:00 at the KERN booth, which is 338719. I'll put it in the show notes. Make sure you're there. We're all going to meet up. We're going to absolutely disrupt that side of the South booth. And I'm sure
sticker bomb a new KERN.
Right. Piss off everyone around KERN.
I have actual stickers now. I don't just have to tape a business card to Grimsmith's pallet changer using.
Oh yeah, I got some of those, I think, in my latest shipment from you guys.
Yeah. But before, when I was in emo, everyone was supposed to sticker bomb Grimsmith's KERN, and I only had my metal business cards, which are not self-adhesive, and I didn't have anything to tape it on with. So I went to the 5-axis booth, got like a handful of stickers from them, and I folded the stickers back on each other so that they made like double stick tape. So I think to this day, my business card is still adhered to his pallet changer with 5-axis stickers.
And you're the reason that he has 5-axis now, is he saw all these stickers underneath your card.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I'm also shout out if anyone wants some 5-axis stuff. I'm transitioning to Lang, and I've got some vices and 0-point the base plates for sale. So hit me up if you're interested. Nothing wrong with them per se. I just like Lang better.
Yep, Lang gang.
All
right. Well, then let's get to the last question I ask every guest every week, which is, what did you guys research this week? And it can be anything under the sun. Doesn't need to be machining related. What you've been looking up?
Juan, you go first.
Yeah, Mill DTL 5541.
I know that one.
Yeah, me too. So chem film certs, okay.
Yeah, like I said, we're big into chem film right now. That's my big project right now, is getting that going. But other than that, a little bit of outside of work stuff. I've been doing a lot of rock climbing with Jeff lately. So that's kind of been a new life outside of work thing for me. Doing some YouTube videos and stuff, or watching some YouTube videos, I should say, about that, and learning new things. So that's been fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've somehow stumbled across a bunch of rock climbing YouTube videos, and I'm like watching them, and I'm like, I haven't been climbing in like 10 years.
Yeah,
Why
it's
am I
a
watching
blast, man.
this?
It's a lot of fun. Like, I pretty much was not exercising at all before rock climbing, so that's obviously a really good thing for me. But like going to the regular gym, it's kind of boring, Like you're just like picking things up and putting them down, and it's just like there's no like mental aspect to it. But rock climbing, there's more of a problem solving aspect as well as a exercise portion, so it's fun.
Okay, that's great. Nick?
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I wish I were closer because I would totally join you guys. I used to do a little bit of rock climbing. My mom was a gymnastics coach, and they had a rock wall there. So when I was a kid, I would always just spend my time in the evenings, like going up and down the wall, and it was okay at it. It was fun. But all right, so this week or this past week, I haven't really had time to do too much research because Autodesk invited me to an event at their UK office in Birmingham. So they kind of asked a group of their Fusion developers and some customers to all fly over, and we did just a big in-person meetup and talked about. I mean, it was pretty much Fusion stuff from the beginning to the end. They gave us a tour of their facility, much bigger than I thought it was. They've got like robot arms doing hybrid additive stuff in the front room. I got to see like a Bach Mono, which was designed entirely in Autodesk Inventor, which is a really cool car.
It's like my dream car. Like that thing is so sick.
I got to touch it. It was cool. And then in the back, they've got like their R&D machines. They've got a UMC 1000 with a Meltio additive deposition head on it. They're doing like metal 3D printing and then machining it back off to final parts. They've got their like VF2 and their Doosan Lynx lathe that they use for like post development and things. They have this huge FDM printer called Vesuvius that they're taking to Autodesk University. It's like just a truly massive, like if you took an Ultimaker and you just scaled it up like 10 times, it's huge.
Jeez.
They've got a whole bunch of machines in the back, which are working on, I guess, some super secret projects, but they have some very impressive machines. They're like a big DMG like 125 duo block and huge Doosan verticals. They've got a DMU65 there. They've got some massive like gantry mill with a 5-axis head on it in the back doing some finishing stuff, and then they've got like a Hermle mill turn. It has like a 500 or not a 500. How big is it? It's got to be, I guess in inches. It's probably a 40-inch diameter table, and they said it spins 2,000 RPM.
That's terrifying.
So it's like a 5-axis, but also it can be the most scary lathe you've ever seen. And
so
then they've got like
800 or 900 millimeter table that spins that fast.
It's huge. It's ridiculous. They've got all these machines. They do like post development on them. They actually test software stuff. When they're developing new toolpath strategies, they go and run them there and then use that to help tweak the algorithm underneath and like make sure that all of us up at the surface level get good results. So they crash their machines so we don't have to. But it was really cool to see all that. And they also have some very impressive inspection gear and like robotics stuff. And then upstairs, they've got all the offices where the development work happens. That's where Delcam used to be before Autodesk bought them.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, it was just it was only really a 2-day event, but it kind of extended plus or minus a day because people got there early and left late. And we'd get up early in the morning, have some breakfast, go talk Fusion all day, and did some classes on like 5-axis toolpath control and like upcoming features that are not yet public but are very cool. I did a presentation on like what basically the two big things that I love about Fusion and the two really big barriers. And for the barriers, I mostly talked about how right now it's technically not ITAR compliant, and as my business has recently been approved for ITAR, that's a little bit annoying because I've got to find alternate solutions for that. And then also, I really, really, really want associative tools in the tool library so that when you create a toolpath and you select a tool, it doesn't copy a tool into an entirely new instance. I want those to be links so you can push and pull changes and everything. So I talked about that stuff a little bit. Among many other conversations that extended throughout the entire event and even well into the car ride back to the airport. So that was a really good event. I'm very thankful that they invited me to that, and good time was had by all. I think it was productive for me, productive for Autodesk, getting to spend some quality time in person with the customers, not just as a short Zoom call, but just go tap on someone's shoulder and ask them about something over lunch. And it's, they can say, oh, well, I don't know about that, but hey, that person over there, they wrote that feature. Go talk to them. They can tell you all the nitty gritty about why it does this or doesn't do that. Like, just absolutely a fantastic time. So no research, but I guess you could also consider a lot of that research.
Yeah, you were forced downloaded a lot of information.
It was drinking from a fire hose, let me tell you. That was a lot going on in a short period of time. I was so exhausted. I was jet lagged. I didn't get to sleep on the plane, and just luckily the British like their tea and coffee breaks. So about every hour and a half, we would all break and go and caffeinate and get some snacks. So that kept me going. But I crashed so hard when I got back in town.
I bet. Yeah.
So no, that was good. And then past that, it's just like dog training. We have our puppy that we adopted last August is now a giant 75-pound ball of energy, and he's wonderful. He's sweet. He is the best cuddler in the world. But when a 75-pound, very muscular dog doesn't listen well, it can be problematic. And he is so fast. I mean, he can sprint across a field in no time. So since we're traveling for IMTS, normally we try to leave him with a friend, but he and our other dog are a lot, mostly because he has so much energy. And our other dog is just she's an old lady and doesn't really want to play, and he really wants to play. So right. She ends up getting upset at him. So we're going to drop him off at training on Monday. He's going to start some training where we pick him up every night. And then while we're away at IMTS, he's going to be boarded with them, and he'll get some hardcore puppy boot camp while we're machine shopping. So I don't expect magic overnight, but hopefully this is the start of some incremental changes. And, I don't need him to be a super obedient police dog or service dog, but I'd like him to at least listen a little bit better. And, if he jumps on somebody who does not want hugs right that moment, we can at least get him to sit down. And I think Jeff, when Jeff was at our shop, when you guys visited a little while ago, he was sitting in a chair, and Mando just climbed up the chair and sat on his face.
Oh, that was me. That was
you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He has no sense of personal space.
Yeah. He's very sweet, but no sense of personal space.
He still thinks he's tiny.
Yeah.
He'll come paw at me and say hi, can I come up? I'm like, dude, you're 3 feet tall and super strong. I've seen you. He'll stand on my carts that I use for organizing my parts.
He's a nut. Yeah.
He likes to get up on chairs, but I think he just likes high places. So he'll stand on a chair, and then if I have an empty material cart nearby, he'll put his paws up there, and I'll just look over, and he's sitting on top of a cart or on top of some stock or something. Dude, what are you doing? He's such a doofus, but I love him. But I will love him more if he at least learned some manners that we can optionally call on him to use.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't want to break his spirit too much. I mean, I still love the energy and the spontaneous weirdness, but he needs to know how to behave with other people and in public.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, like I said at the beginning, we are all slammed, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly here so we can all go make some money and lessen our loads before IMTS. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us again.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm sorry the Florida Man episode did not have more alligators. I think that's more of the Miami crowd.
Yeah, you guys are the least Florida men.
Yeah, men. Orlando and Jacksonville.
There's no bath salts. There's no jail time.
No,
you know of.
Dude, our records are all public here. You would know. You can Google anything about anyone in Florida.
Right. That's why you guys are in the news. Because, if it's a slow news day, it's just let's see what happened in Florida today.
Yeah, you never hear Arizona man.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But it was good. Thanks for having us on again, catching up a little bit, and I'm sure we'll see everybody at IMTS.
Definitely.
Yeah, look
man.
for the conga line.
For sure. Thanks to all the Patreon members. You guys make these episodes possible. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.